Hey, Project Runway fans, please stay tuned for my recap of Season 15, Episode 12, Bold Innovation. We are going to be looking at some unconventional challenge materials, and we're going to be rating the runway. Check it out.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey, Project Runway fans, please check out my recap coming up next, Season 15, Episode 12, Bold Innovation. We will be looking at the designer's Unconventional Materials Challenge, and please stay tuned for the Runway Rundown.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey guys, I'm your host, Michelle Uberreste. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Uberreste. Today we're going to be talking about Season 15, Episode 12, Bold Innovation. This is the epic Project Runway Unconventional Materials Challenge. And, I always like the avant-garde and unconventional materials challenges, and they're mixing them together this episode. So I'm really excited about this episode. This is like straight up my alley. The designers get taken to basically this warehouse where they walk in and there's flames and there's lots of pieces of metal. And I mean, this for me would be my dream challenge. I love like the industrial kind of look. And the only thing I'd be worried about is how heavy can you make this garment. So we see the designers come in, and Brian Bolane from Lexus is giving the challenge to the designers with Tim. And they actually get to take Lexus to Mood, where their budget is $150 and they get 30 minutes to shop, which is not a lot of time, but they do get 2 days for the challenge. So I really like it when they give a little more time for the challenge, especially on something with unconventional materials or avant-garde, because we really have higher expectations and the designers really have a lot more time to deliver some amazing stuff on the runway. So the designers are given about 5 minutes to run around this warehouse and grab as much metal as they can. And they have huge trash cans that they can fill. And most of the designers are running around like crazy. I remember I always did. You want to get as much done as you can in 5 minutes. And I feel like for me, it was a very visceral reaction. Just anything as designer that really makes you feel something, you grab it and you just take it and you'll figure it out later. But we do have Laurence kind of taking her time and strolling through her 5 minutes of time and thinking very thoughtfully about what she's going to do with these pieces. That to me just really is impressive, because I feel like in 5 minutes, how much can you really strategize? But I mean, I think it did well for her in the end. But I feel like it's also something to be said for when a designer has a reaction to something emotionally, then the client is going to as well. So we go into the challenge, and we have the designers in the workroom, and Tim comes in for his critiques, and I feel like they went rather well. And now we're down to only 6 designers. We've only got 2 more challenges until Fashion Week, and it's coming down to the wire where we have the best of the best. And, I think this is the perfect time to really give the avant-garde and unconventional material challenge, because we're going to see a really awesome show. And I really think the designers came through. Even, the person that ends up going home did a really great job. And I think that the judges made it clear as well. It's so, it's really inspiring to see something avant-garde and out of the box and give the designers a little break from trying to please a client. It really gives them the creative freedom, and I think that they pretty much all delivered. And unfortunately, at this point in the competition, it's not whose design is bad, it's who's the worst out of a lot of really good designers. And I think in the workroom there were really not too many problems. I mean, we do see Cornelius struggling a little bit, and in his critique with Tim, he kind of throws out these words like a baby bump, this could be a maternity dress, and I agreed with him. But I liked the idea where Cornelius was going with it, with the tubes. But I do think, just like the judges did, that it was kind of, it's out there, it's been done before. So, I mean, I think it takes, really what it takes to win an unconventional challenge is to transform the material. Instead of, kind of just placing it on your garment and saying, hi, I'm a tube, or I'm a fence, or whatever. It's really takes more thought to take your materials and turn it into something that doesn't look like what it originally was. So I think, Ma Jing has a little problem in the workroom as well. He's taking this copper material and trying to create something like a coral effect, but he's having the problem of, the metal being too heavy for his dress. And I was really actually thinking in the beginning, how hard is it going to be for these designers to use this metal? And you see them in the workroom with metal cutters, and you've got a lot of raw edges and sharp things going on. I mean, they're really cutting up some sheet metal and stuff like that. So I think that is also one of the challenges to these unconventional material challenges, is that you have to make it safe for your models to wear. And often the judges know that, it's difficult, but they will critique you on how you do that. So we've got a lot of sharp edges, and models that are a little bit scared. But I think overall the designers really pulled it off. So we also have in the workroom Rick, and I love what he's doing with the tiles. It just seems a little bit too simple. But I love the way that he texture mixes, and I almost wish there would have been a little more hardware on it or something crazier. And I think Tim mentioned that in his critiques as well, that this isn't really going avant-garde enough. The texture is great and it's very put together, but it's really nothing new. It's not a new silhouette or a new idea. We also have Erin, who's using Gorilla Glue on her flowers that she's creating out of metal, which I think is really smart. It's kind of this weird, it's a weird choice, I think, for material to make flowers out of. So I think that made it really effective, but she's using this Gorilla Glue, and she leaves it overnight to her second day in the workroom. And she realizes that it foams up kind of like insulation. And so we kind of have this problem that she's freaking out right in the morning, but I feel like we never really get a resolution to that. Like, what did she do? Because she did end up using her flowers. So I don't know if she kind of chiseled it off or what, but sometimes I wish that the show would kind of give a little more resolution to the problems that they're presenting to us, because I'd be interested to know how she solved that problem. A lot of things can come up in the workroom that, are hindering your design and your work time, and I would just like to see how, they're coming up with the solutions to those. Really, we only have 6 designers left, and let's go ahead and do our runway rundown. We have our first designer, Cornelius, and I actually really like this design. I like that he has the kind of primary neon colors in stripes with the black. I think, I like the little cowl that he did on this dress, whereas I didn't like it on the back that he's had, he's put it on different designs in the past. I just really think the placement of the tubes and even the use of the tubes, it's already kind of, been done, the use of the tubes, and the placement is a little disturbing. And, he started out with this inspiration of a butterfly or like an insect, and then he kind of morphed it into, okay, it's a parasite, and I totally get that. I just wish that it was more ugly pretty because right now it's not really ugly and it's not very attractive, but I feel like there was just more. If you want to kind of elicit that gut reaction of someone, it needs to be way more gross, way more disturbing. And this was just kind of like not doing enough, I think. And if you're gonna go there and do something super weird, you just need to push it, like dial up the volume. And it's avant-garde, you don't need to dial it back. So I feel like if we would have seen something even more extreme, this could have been more successful. And the dress itself without the tubes, I really like. So maybe there could have been some other technique done with the metal. But really, if we're talking about unconventional materials, how many of those did he really incorporate? I mean, you know, I see some tubes, and the rest is basically a dress that was constructed. So I don't see anything that's transformed. I do give it a 6. I think the dress itself is really attractive and it's really sellable. But I just think as is, it's not avant-garde enough. And I gave it a 6. I also gave Ma Jing a 6. He did kind of a denim dress with copper on top. Back one. Back one more. That one. So Ma Jing usually works with denim a lot, and I think that was kind of smart, but I don't think this was avant-garde either. This could be something maybe for the runway, or, you know, in a different material. You could even see it in some stores. I think it's, you know, it did take a lot of work, but I think he wanted to be artistic, and I just didn't see that coming across. I didn't see any form out of this coral that was placed in an innovative way or a smart way. And I don't think that the crumpling of the metal and using the copper pipes inside of it, it wasn't done in a necessarily very artistic way where it was thoughtful. And I understand that he wanted it to be organic, but for me, it didn't click. And I didn't think that he transformed his materials either into something, you know, beautiful and something different. You can still tell that it's just kind of copper piping wound together. And then, you know, we have this issue of this dress being really heavy. And I think it would have been easily solved, like Rick said, just to add the straps. And I don't think it would have taken away from the dress at all. But it would have added the effect, you know, of the model's confidence, and she wouldn't be holding up this dress. You know, we wouldn't be concerned about the model. We would be focusing on the dress a little more. It is a really beautiful dress. I just don't think it's avant-garde enough. And I think Ma Jing has been given so many chances, and he just keeps falling flat. And I think he's a really great designer. I just think sometimes he gets stuck in his own headspace and emotional, you know, baggage. But I think it's a pretty dress, but it wasn't on the top for me. And then the next designer we have is Erin. And Erin made this really beautiful, of course, yellow, kind of a pant suit with what she made as a top is kind of like an apron almost, that she made out of, it looks like chicken wire. But it doesn't look like chicken wire. It looks like it's just making all of these pieces float that she's sewn onto it, these flowers and these pockets. It just, it adds a lot of volume to kind of the lower half, which I think is beautiful. And she's got this stiff, you know, apron with these flowing pants, and I think the juxtaposition of that is really beautiful. And this is probably the most avant-garde thing I'm seeing on the runway this episode. I think her concept of, you know, making kind of a dress that's more like it doesn't fit the body, it's just more like a paper doll where it has the tabs on the top and the bottom, and it floats away from the body. I think that was really smart, and I'm really excited about this from Erin, because I feel like in the past challenges she has really kind of been, you know, calling it in and kind of doing the same silhouettes and everything like that. And yes, we've seen this technique from her, but this is something different. She's using it in a different way, and it's a different, you know, silhouette. We still see her signature, but I think this is a good example of when a designer uses their signature and still evolves into something else. So I gave it an 8.5, just because I feel like it could have had a little bit more. I feel like, you know, it's avant-garde, but you could still see someone wearing this in a music video or something like that. So I definitely loved it, though, especially in comparison to a lot of the other designers. And next we have Laurence. And, you know, when I see her working in the workroom, she's such an artist. Her construction, you can tell, is just immaculate. And whenever she shows something on the runway, you can really tell. It really comes through that she knows how to tailor something, and she knows how to create interesting shapes without being costumey. Her proportions, you know, she always does this strong shoulder, but it's not over the top. It's still very tasteful. It's something a woman could wear in everyday life, or, you know, out to an event or something like that, and not be looked at as super strange. And, you know, I really think that takes a cultivated eye. But she does have this problem in, you know, working in black, which I get that. But I think, you know, when you're showing something on the runway on television, you're losing all these beautiful details. So we see her, you know, basically she's taking leather, she's weaving it through this skirt that's kind of like steps or kind of a pyramid, and it's a beautiful shape. But we're also losing the metal from the unconventional, you know, material part of it. And so when I first saw her weaving together these, you know, skirt pieces, I'm thinking she's going to leave the corners woven and the metal's going to show through everywhere else. And I really liked that better because I feel like it added the contrast that her dress needed. Because she has such beautiful details, and they're not coming out. You know, they're not really being showcased on the runway and on television. And I think, you know, even if she was to add a little bit of, you know, metallic, or like she had, you know, a little bit of blue edges on the leather, if it would have been a little more color, it would really, I think it would really help to kind of show off all these beautiful details and enhance the look itself, you know, from far away and close up. And I think also, obviously, the skirt was too short. I feel like for avant-garde, she could have made this skirt like on such a much bigger scale that it would have had such a bigger impact on the runway. She could have, you know, just exaggerated it a little bit, or, you know, maybe it could be floor length. I thought would be pretty cool, because I love this effect and I've never seen it before. And I just think it needed, you know, a little more. It's edgy, but it needs like something bigger and something more out of the box to make it avant-garde. So I gave her a 7. And then we have Roberi. And I really love Roberi's perspective. I feel like it's much different from all of the other designers on this season. There's something structural about it, something, you know, kind of organic at the same time. And I feel like, you know, usually his dresses end up a little bit too short. But I think that he kind of has this quiet confidence where he really can take the time to focus and create. He's not really concerned about what the other designers are working on, or, you know, necessarily even what the judges are thinking. He's just really trying to make something great. And, you know, it usually comes out very creative and something kind of different than the other designers. And I really love this. I love the fact that he's mixing the colors of metals. He's kind of got this textured fabric underneath. And there's so many dimensions and depth to this dress, that, yes, I've seen this technique before, sort of, you know, this kind of futuristic look, but I feel like the way that he executed it was really masterful, and, you know, it's really architectural. This kind of reminds me of like the Disney concert hall, and I really liked everything about it and all the proportions. The only thing I really didn't care for was the weird seam at the bottom where he's kind of got the hand stitching. And I know that he kind of explained that in his, you know, in as part of his inspiration. But I didn't really care for it, and I didn't think it belonged there. And I didn't really see it enough incorporated in the rest of the garment for it to make sense. It just kind of looked like a mistake. to me. I like the addition of the little mask. I think that makes it a little more avant-garde too. And I think it was just genius how he puts them, he glues it to these glasses that she can, then take off. And I thought she looked like a work of art, really, and I gave it a 7. And then we have Rick. And let me just tell you, this was probably my personal favorite. I love texture mixing, and I think that he did a phenomenal job at this. And he's not only using fabrics and using the materials, but he's beating the fabric with, nuts and bolts. He's creating not just spikes, but putting a dog tag underneath the spikes to create kind of a new hardware and a new texture. And the way that it's all mixing together is just really doing something for me. I would love to wear this just on a daily basis. But, I think it's not avant-garde. And I think the problem is that the silhouette is too pedestrian for me. So, I think the thing that saved him this time around was that his dress is phenomenal, and the way that he mixed all of these textures and really put thought into how he's going to add the materials and transform them into a texture, into a textile. And, especially with the tiles, fitting them around the curves and everything. I do agree with the judges that, the front is better than the back. I like the front better. It's more incorporated to me. The back, I feel like with the tiles just kind of hanging down her back horizontally, it doesn't really flow with the rest of the dress. The bottom half in the back, I think, is great. The zipper, it's asymmetrical, and, the length and everything is great. I just feel like I wish he would have taken like 10 extra minutes just to, address the back. I feel like it was he was running out of time, taking so much time out of his workroom, time to do the front and create these textiles, that the back was kind of an afterthought for me. I still gave it a 7 because I think it looks really expensive and I think it's really thoughtful and well done. I just wish it was more avant-garde. And, Rick did tell us before, he's not really an avant-garde designer, and I get that, but this is kind of your opportunity as a designer to step outside of your comfort zone and just do something crazy. It can be really liberating to just do something that you're not really used to, and I feel like designers, every season you have to come out with so many, collections or so many garments, and really you have to keep reinventing yourself every season. You have to beat yourself from last season. You're competing against yourself. And, if you don't have the willingness to kind of jump and take the leap into something, crazier or try something different than you're used to, then I think that's stifling. And I don't think, designers get too comfortable with what they're used to. And I think when you're challenged with something like designing for a different type of client, a different customer, or you're designing for a different type of look or a different textile than you're used to using, or even different colors or structures, I think you can really discover that you have more of a range than you thought you did, and you can still make something look signature and unique to your design aesthetic, but you can still reach out to different customers, and have different price points and different clients, and you can really find that you were good at something that you never knew you were. For example, when I first started fashion design in school, we never did menswear, never. The men didn't even learn menswear or knits. And when I started working in the industry, I kind of got menswear thrown on me because none of the other female designers really wanted to work with it. And my aesthetic is can be very masculine and futuristic and dark, and so it kind of, I kind of started working on this menswear, and I realized I'm kind of good at it, and I kind of enjoy it too, and I kind of discovered this whole client base I never knew I had, and guys were telling me, oh, you need to make more stuff because we can't find this type of thing out there already. So I really felt like I, learned, hey, I'm good at menswear, and I never even considered doing it, and I feel like that's it can be applied to almost any, genre or niche of fashion, that you need to continually be open to other types of looks and, exposing yourself to other designers and other things in art and things as well. So I feel like, you know, for Rick, he did a good job, but I wish he would have jumped out of his comfort zone a little bit more. I think that's the last designer that we have. So we do have Erin winning the challenge, and rightfully so. I had her rated as the highest. When her outfit came out, I was like stunned, and I think that her use of color really goes a long way for her, and it can, you know, some of the other designers have a little bit of trouble, or they're scared to use color, and I think that really works against them. I think for Erin, you know, she does think outside of the box, but she also uses the color and the unique materials, and I think that's probably going to get her into Fashion Week. And we see, unfortunately, that Ma Jing is sent home. And, you know, I actually do agree with this decision. Cornelius, the dress he made, I liked the dress, but I didn't really like the technique and the way that he executed it. I think it could have been better, you know, and I think between, you know, him and Ma Jing really had the less interesting dress to me. At least Cornelius's had a really interesting look, and it was thought-provoking, if anything, and, you know, it was definitely had a good inspiration. And I think, you know, Ma Jing, we see him struggling week to week, and I really did want to see him do a collection for Fashion Week, but I think, you know, maybe this could be exciting too. You know, maybe Cornelius will make it. I would really like to see what kind of things he comes up with too, with the lack of inspiration, because, you know, you have these designers going to Fashion Week, and they aren't told this is a challenge. They aren't told you need to design for this person, or you need to, you know, use this as inspiration. They can basically come up with whatever they want, and I love, you know, looking at the collections for Fashion Week, because the designers have to come up with it on their own, and I think that really speaks to who they are creatively. You know, you can step into a situation and say, okay, I have to meet these criteria, and I have to design into this. But I think when you're given free reign, you know, they're giving it, you know, a huge budget, and they're given a lot amount of time, and they really are free to make whatever kind of thing they want and express themselves completely. And that is an opportunity that a lot of designers really never get to have. They struggle, you know, and they have to, you know, sell things that are more commercial than they'd like, or, you know, you have to branch out into areas that maybe, you know, you aren't as interested in. But this is basically no holds barred. So, you know, I think Cornelius could come up with something really interesting for Fashion Week, and so now I'm excited to see that. I really don't know who I would send home next week out of, you know, the 5 that are left. I kind of love all of them, and they're all really different, so I think it'll be really interesting. But, you know, I find the funny thing is next week is also an unconventional challenge, so why have them stacked up against each other? And it sounds like this might be the last challenge before Fashion Week, so I feel like that's just, I don't know, it's a little weird, but we'll see how it goes. So please, guys, tweet me, follow me on Instagram at Uberreste, and let me know who your picks are for Fashion Week, and send in your questions and I will answer them next episode. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.